LT, and I'm an alcoholic addict.
All right. Well, not exactly sure. I didn't see that full video playthrough or whatnot. But anyways, my name's Dan, and this is my first live stream. And to be honest with you, I didn't quite know what a live stream was. I was actually thinking this was going to be more of a Zoom type thing. But hey, we're going to get through this. So comments would be great. That way I have something to kind of go off of. But hey, for the first one, we're going to roll with it. You know, it's funny, I was just listening to a motivational speaker, and they were talking about, okay, so it looks like this is breaking up. So I'm going to go from my laptop back to my phone, because it seems to have better continuity. So give me a moment here. All right. How about that, LT? Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better.
All right. So we'll just roll with this for right now. So anyhow, first live stream. I wear bifocals. I can barely see as it is. So I may not be able to see everyone's comments, but looks like we got quite a few people lined up. And again, I'm not 100% sure how all this is going to play out, but I figure just say yes. And like I was saying earlier, I was listening to some motivational speaker, and he was talking about just saying yes to everything. You know, for 52 years of my life, I've kind of lived it in a fear, you know, just thinking I always had to follow the norm, and was always, for the most part, afraid to say yes to things, right? Things that would put me outside of my comfort zone. And starting June 1st of 2020, I've been on where I'm changing not only my mental thoughts of how life is, but also doing a physical body change as well. And what I've noticed is something that Joe Rogan said, that life is a journey. And you can't really have a journey if you're not willing to say yes. And so meeting LT and talking to him, that's why I did the interview that we did. That's why I'm here right now, right? Just putting myself out there and not expecting much of anything, but just willing to say yes, you know, and hopefully we get something out of this all together. So normally what I read in the morning before I begin my day is I've got this Daily Meditations by Ding Ming Dao, and we're going to start with that. And then I've got 24 hours a day, which is an AA book type thing. So we'll start with the Tao. Clearing blue sky, a promise in bare branches. In winter, there are sunny days. In adulthood, childhood can return. In winter, all things appear dead or dormant. The rain and the snow seems inconsistent. The nights are long. Then one day, the sky clears to a brilliant blue. The air warms. A mist rises from the earth, and the perfume of water, clay, and moss drifts through the air. Gardens are seen preparing new stock through their, though they are only bare branches and gray root balls. The people are optimistic. They know there will be an end to the cold. In adulthood, we often see responsibilities as something dreadful. Why should we dig the ground when the weather is disagreeable? We see activities only as obligations, and we strain against our fate. But there is joy to working in harmony with proper time. When we do things at just the right occasion, and those efforts bear fruit later, the gratification is tremendous. There was an old man who began an orchard upon his retirement. Everyone laughed at him. Why plant trees? They told him. They told him that he would never live to see a mature crop. Undaunted, he planted anyway, and he has seen them blossom and has eaten their fruit. We all need a type of optimism that is full of hope of that of a childhood. That's kind of, it's always funny when you read these things, they almost always line up with what you're thinking about during the day. And that kind of just goes back to the saying yes and not being afraid of life, in my opinion. And then we'll go to the 24 hours a day, February 7th, AA thought of the day. A nightclub crowded with men and women, all dressed up in evening clothes. Looks like a very festive place, but you should see the restrooms of the nightclub the next morning. What a mess. People have been sick all over the place, and it does smell. The glamour of the night before is all gone, and only the stink of the morning after is left. In AA, we learn to take a long view of drinking instead of a short view. We learn to think less about the pleasures of the moment and more about the consequences. As the night before became less important to me, and the morning after more important. Meditation for the day. Only a few more steps, and then God's power shall be seen and known in my life. I know I'm walking in darkness, surrounded by the limitations of space and time, but even in darkness, I can have faith and can be a light to guide feet that are afraid. I believe that God's power will break through the darkness of my prayers, will pierce even to the ears of God himself. But only a cry from the heart, a trusting cry, ever pierces the darkness and reaches to the divine ear of God. Prayer for the day. I pray that the divine power of God will help my human weakness. I pray that my prayers may reach through the darkness to the ear of God. And for the longest time, that's pretty much how I lived my life, was for the moment, never thinking about the consequences, right? Just being selfish. That's really what it comes down to. It's just being selfish with every act that I did my entire life. And what I'm finding through this journey that I've set out for myself in actually having a long-term goal, it's weird, because even though I'm living in the moment, I kind of have a purpose. I see something down the road that every day I wake up, I'm excited to do something, whatever that something is. For me, it's going to the gym, it's finding people to help me to get to the next level. And every set I do, every push up, every setup, I no longer think of it as just I'm doing it right now. I think it's one step closer to this goal that I have. And it's been an amazing ride. It really has been an amazing ride. But I think the hardest part of this whole thing is trying not to be selfish about it, and just try to spread what I'm gaining to other people, right? To help lift up other people. And that was something that has proven itself here in the last couple of months. So um, for some who don't know, others you probably have heard this before, but I had a really good job where, basically I was just driving a go-kart all day, moving product from point A to point B. Had my radio on, eating peanuts, drinking iced tea, taking breaks whenever. Really nice job. And at the point I got that job, I was still really doing stuff with AA and really trying to share this message. But then I got into this routine of, well, I don't need a meeting. I got to work, and my life became work, and I stopped sharing the message. And when I stopped doing that, again, I became selfish, and I started thinking of only about, what do I need to do to make myself happy? And in the midst of doing that, I decided, well, you know what? Hey, I've been sober for a while. I can at least smoke some pot, right? That's not going to be a big deal. And I smoked some pot, and almost the next day, it wasn't quite the next day, but almost the next day, I hit something with a forklift. And of course, they're going to drug test me, and I failed the drug test. And this is where I think sponsorship is such an amazing thing, and I think it's something that really gets left out of the rooms and stuff, and probably isn't promoted as much as it should be. But I end up actually my sponsor ends up calling me because I hadn't talked to him for a while, and he goes, "What the hell happened?" And I explained it to him, and man, I love my sponsor because he's, like I said before, he's so brutally honest, but he's honest in a very loving way. He's not out just to be mean, but he's out there to really shine a light on my weak spots. And he goes, "Well, there you go. How do you like living your life being selfish?" And it didn't click with me. And I'm like, "What are you talking about being selfish?" He goes, "Well, you're not sharing this message. I mean, here you have this message of sobriety that was so freely given to you, and you're keeping it to yourself. How come you're not out spreading the word?" And once that connection was kind of made again or reestablished, it's been an interesting ride. I end up meeting LT. I end up getting to do these live streams and this and that. And through all of that, I've found a new purpose in my life. Now, it's still a struggle. I still kind of feel like a trash bag floating in the wind sometimes, especially with this little side hustle thing that I'm doing. But being able to do this side thing, I'm rent's paid, bills are getting paid, I've got food, my cat's not hungry. But that actually has allowed me to have more free time to start doing things that I've always been afraid to do. And again, it just comes back to saying yes, and it's a crazy ride. So I'm going to look at some comments so you guys get to see me close up here. Thank you, Arturo. Really appreciate that. And you guys are right. Little things do count. It's all amazing stuff. It's funny is this started at 3 o'clock Utah time, and of course my crazy schedule. I get up early anyways, but the first thing 1 o'clock this morning, I'm wide awake, right? And it's because of anxiety for doing this live stream. And you're right, Des. Meetings are the first things that go out the window. You start losing the fellowship. And for some of you who may or may not know, 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time every day, Discord Recovering Addicts has a live meeting, a Zoom meeting. So if you guys are up or around that time, you're more than welcome to join us. And I guess LT can help me out with the link parts and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but Recovering Addicts in Discord, tons of information right there, and I think that's the way to go. But again, back to this morning, right? So I wake up at 1, I can't go back to sleep, and I'm worried about how this is going to turn out and this and that. And at one point, finally, I was like, why am I worried? This is the very first time. We'll get through it. We'll see what happens, and we just roll from there. But for me, as an alcoholic, instead of saying yes my whole life, it was always no, because I was never prepared for anything, right? Everything had to be perfect before I could start doing anything. And I found a new freedom by just saying yes. And just like with this, right? Either it works or it fails. I crash or I fly. But if I never take the chance, I'll never know. And I don't know. It's just a crazy thing. All right. Well, it looks like we've posted all kinds of things to hit the Discord there. So people join up. It's a really great community, and there's a lot of resources. And it definitely helps me. So Turl says, I feel like this is a religion. And when we stop going and spreading the word, that it is a step back. Like you said, this is a new freedom. Glad, like what you're saying. Thank you, Arturo. In a way, I think it kind of is like that. I think we get so wrapped up in ourselves that we really tend to lose sight of what the real goal is. And I'm not perfect on any of this stuff, and a lot of it is stuff you guys have already heard. We all know the sayings, meeting makers make it, and plug in the jug and all that stuff. And I definitely don't want to sound cliche on all of this stuff, because it's a work in progress. This whole thing is just a journey. But what I find is, through sharing my message, that it allows me to get out of myself, right? But it also, it gives me a freedom. And this is a freedom I've never really had before, because I always thought it was about me. And to this day, I still see where, well, it's all about Dan. It's this, and that. And trying to find that balance in life is really hard sometimes. It's so funny. We talk about, we have to be selfish in our recovery, but yet we got to give it away. And just like this whole transformation that I've been on for the last 8 months, I think it is. I'm doing this for myself in hopes that I can encourage and inspire other people that even at age now 52, your life's not over. There's things you can do, but if you make it all about yourself, you're going to end up failing again. It's got to be bigger than yourself. And I still don't know what that answer is. And I'll probably never know what that answer is. But I do know that I am more satisfied with my life right now than I've been in a long time. I still have up and down days, especially with the weather and the cold. Hey there. It was so funny. Kind of had a little snowstorm go through here the last couple of days, and man, I was just feeling really depressed. Like what is this all worth? I mean, why am I even doing the things that I'm doing? Right? Just feeling really down. Basically, having a self-pity party, and it's amazing how quick things can change if you just kind of turn your mind around. And what happened was I met with a gymnastics coach, and there's a couple of moves that I'm learning for this performance I'm going to be doing in October. And I went in there, and what was really cool about the whole thing was I didn't really go in with many expectations. I kind of thought I'd be worse than I was. And what was nice is the preparation that I've been doing that's led up to what I call phase 2 of this journey. It was interesting when I was able to perform a couple of things that the coach asked, and I saw a twinkle in his eye, and he's like, yes, which to me was a sign of like, okay, we've got something we can work with here, right? Because when he first saw me and everything, I'm pretty sure he was like, well, this will last one meeting and then this will be over with. But it was kind of neat because, again, I was able to kind of tell him my story and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And to see his reaction encouraged me. So I left that 1 hour session, and my whole attitude had changed. I wasn't depressed. I was very excited. I've got a new set of goals that I'm working on now, and it's very interesting. Life is very, very interesting. And if people have questions or comments, man, throw them out there because I don't know how long I can ramble. I'm sure I can ramble for quite a bit, but I'd like to get some feedback or something to kind of go off of. So if anyone's got any questions, throw them out there. Good morning, Joni. So as we go along through this, and as I'm just kind of winging this whole thing, I figured might as well jump into the big book, and I'm just gonna, and throughout my big book, I've got things highlighted and marked, and so I just flipped open a page, and it goes, we ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no request of ourselves only. And in a weird way, that kind of goes along with this whole journey that I'm on, right? Because my ego at work caused me to think that I have this, that, I'm the man, Dan the man, right? I'm building muscles up, I'm looking better, I'm feeling good, and I start walking with this strut, right? And that ego is also what said, hey, pot would be all right. That ego is also what cost me that job, right? What's amazing is you can't get rid of the ego altogether, right? So it asks for freedom from self. But again, it comes back to that balance, right? How much of what I do on a daily basis is because it's ego driven or self-will driven, and to find that balance. And oddly enough, one of the persons that I kind of started reading some of his books and always have looked up to him is Bruce Lee. Here you got a guy who is just a marvel in all aspects of life. So you got a quote like a movie star, but a philosopher, and a guy who has transformed his body to do amazing things. And the more I get into it to see how humble he was about everything is quite amazing. And so it gives me something to aspire to. But I think, again, that might go back to having good sponsorship as well. To have someone, at least in my case, I need someone who will actually be honest and like my sponsor is, brutally honest with me, to shine a light on my character defects. There's nothing wrong with hyping yourself up a little bit and going out and seizing the day. But when you're stomping on other people to do it, that's when it gets bad, right? And I guess the whole thing really comes down to is maybe just being of service to people, right? And even though I'm sitting here at home doing this live stream and just rambling about my life and what I'm going through, I see this as a service. As a matter of fact, the side thing that I do to make an income, in the beginning, it was just like, well, actually, so I lose the job, and society, the norms of society said, well, you got to go get another job. You got to get this income coming in, right? And I get that. And so the very first thought was, well, I'm just going to go to a temp service and just get another forklift driving job, and boom. But what I've realized in my life is what'll happen is I'll get a really good job, but then I get comfortable in that job and I start losing sight of what the real goal is, and that is to be of service, whether it's service to an employer, to friends and family, to just anybody on the street. I just start to focus on me. And so in a weird way, losing this job and doing this side thing, when I started doing the delivery thing, I realized it's not just about an income. It's about being of service to other people. And even though I'm just delivering, groceries or food or whatever to people, in the beginning, like I said, it was all about, okay, I gotta get this money so that I can pay rent, blah, blah, blah. Then I realized with some of these people that I've delivered to, some of them are very old or incapable of going out and doing their own thing. And I realized that, it's allowing me to live and it's giving me a freedom, but it's actually allowing me to be of service. And so when I end any delivery or communication with people, I always end it with, thank you for allowing me to be of service to you. And having that constant reminder throughout the day definitely helps encourage me to keep moving forward, whatever forward looks like. I'm not 100% sure, but at least right now in this moment and in this breath, I'm happy, I'm satisfied. So, anyone got any comments or something we can feed off of? A question? Thank you, Michelle. That was the other part of this, and it didn't dawn on me until late last night. This whole time I was thinking this was going to be kind of like a Zoom meeting where everybody would be in there. And late last night, I called up LT and I said, well, how are people supposed to talk and we go back and forth? And he's like, well, this isn't a Zoom meeting, man. This is all you, buddy. And I'm like, oh, well, that maybe I should have prepared something. St. Louis, hey, welcome. Tori, good morning to you. Good morning. Glad you're on here. Glad everybody's on here. To be honest, I thought it was going to be myself talking to myself for the longest time. So, really, really good stuff. I'm not sure. Hold on just a moment here. So there's all kinds of ways of working the steps, and one moment here. And I've had different sponsors throughout the years, and everyone has a different route of taking it. You've got big book thumpers, you've got some who are just like, do it whenever you want. Again, I will be harping on sponsorship because I think it's a very important thing. But the sponsor that I have now, when it came to step one, and step one is the one is the only step that we have to commit to 100%. And that was, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. And, it was easy with some other people to just say, oh yeah, I'm powerless over alcohol and my life is unmanageable. And my sponsor said, what does that look like to you? And asked me to write it out. Right now, some of my sponsors go, writing out this powerless thing, you don't need to do that. It's not written in the big book anywhere says we have to do that. And but I find through writing that it actually allows me to see what my thoughts really are. So the first time that I wrote my thing on powerless, I wrote it like this. It goes, I'm powerless to the thoughts that pop into my head. I'm powerless to change my past. I'm powerless with my belief in God. I'm powerless of what people think of me. I'm powerless about my thoughts of death. I'm powerless of thoughts that I am two-faced. I'm powerless over harm I've caused my kids. I'm powerless over what my dad did to me. I'm powerless over what Ellen did to me, which is my stepmom. I'm powerless over alcohol. I'm powerless over my wife, or, well, we're separated. That's another story. I'm powerless over money owed to people. I'm powerless over how I manage money. I'm powerless over how I keep my apartment. I'm powerless over how I manage my health. I'm powerless over smoking. I'm powerless over how I think about myself. And so that kind of just goes on and on. And so my sponsor looked at that and we read through it. And so then he goes, all right, so this is a lie and this is the truth. So like the first one, I'm powerless over the thoughts that pop into my head. Well, things are going to pop into your head, but you're not powerless over them. You know, if the thought is, you know, hey, I want to kick the door in for some reason. Well, that thought may have popped into my head, but it doesn't mean I have to take action on it. So that was a lie. I'm powerless over changing my past. Well, that is true. There's nothing I can do about my past. I can only do what I'm doing right now. I'm powerless over what people think of me. Well, that's true. I have no control over what people think. Um, I'm powerless over about my thoughts of death. Well, that's a lie too, because I can always change that. So we went through that list and it was like, well, this is a lie and this is the truth. And he goes, so that was a great checklist, but it still didn't describe what powerlessness means to you. And so I really had to look into that. And he goes, look, when you write this, I want you to write it as a Webster's dictionary form of a definition. And so what I had to do was, you know, look up the word power, look up the word powerless, and then find out what powerlessness means. And so this is what I wrote when it really came to powerlessness. I am powerless over a lot of things: the rotation of the earth, the weather, what people may or may not think of me, my past, and my past. But when I add ness to powerless, that puts me in a state of powerless. That one thing that puts me in a state of powerlessness is alcohol. Alcohol has absolute power over me. It makes me powerless. There is no amount, small or large, enough for me to have power over it. One taste or sip, and I have no idea where I will end up, nor how much I will consume. Countless detox, rehabs, welfare checks, and broken promises to myself and my family and friends have shown me this. Yet time after time, I will try again to control my drinking, only to end up worse than the time before. Even after losing 4 or 5 jobs, probably even more, I still go back to alcohol. Here's your proof, Dan. After I went on a 7-day binge, ended up bloody, cracked ribs, lost job, 3 hospital visits, I go to Best Buy. After being informed that they do not have what I was looking for, I left pissed off. My very first thought walking out of the door was a shot would be good. This is the power that alcohol has over me. It says jump, I go how high. It says shit, I go what color. Even though I know it always ends up the same: hospitals, detox, welfare checks, cops at the door. I am absolutely in a state of powerlessness when I put alcohol in my system. And once I wrote that out, it really showed to me. So Tori goes, I've never had a sponsor and never went to too close stuff. And I've been sober for 1.5 years and I feel great. You know, and this program is, even though there's the 12 steps, everyone's going to work it different. And if it's working for you, keep going. That's all I can say. I just know in my case that having someone who can shine a light on my weaknesses has helped me out a lot. And, Tori, like I said, however you find recovery, if it's helping you and you're happy and satisfied with your life, spot on, man. Do your thing. Absolutely. Um, that's what's so great about recovery when you really get into it and you find a community. It's not a one size fits all hat. It's everybody's an individual. Everyone needs a little something different, and everyone takes something different away from, pardon me, any interaction that we have. So what I'm talking about, obviously, is what's working for me, and is by no means you got to do it my way or the highway type of a situation, right? It's just reaching out. I think is the best that I can put it. Going back to being of service, right? Telling people my story and what it's taken me to get to where I am in my life, where that I wake up and I can remember the night before. When I hear a knock on the door, I know it's not cops doing a welfare check because my parents in California haven't heard from me and have called the cops in Utah to come check on me. So however the program works for you or however recovery looks for you, spot on and spread the message. That's the whole key to this whole thing is spread the message of recovery, that there is hope, even in the darkest days, even when I'm passed out surrounded by Listerine bottles and I can't remember the last 2 weeks, there's still hope. And I think that's really what this whole thing comes down to. Recovering addicts and the whole thing that LT is putting together here. It's not that you have to follow a certain steps and in a certain way and this and that. It's that we're a community of people who are trying to sort this life out without depending on something that has been so detrimental to our lives, whether it's drugs, alcohol, eating, sex. I mean, if you look up weird addictions, this one guy had a habit of breaking staples. And we all would say, what, bending staples, break them? Well, that addiction for him ended up costing his job, his marriage, his house. It caused all kinds of damage to him. So whatever your addiction may be, the whole point of this is that there is help, and it's through shining a light on aspects of your life and sharing this message, whatever the message may look like. Michelle writes, hearing about how others are finding success in recovery is very helpful and encouraging. And that's exactly the point, right? It's however you're finding recovery, however you're finding a way to wake up in the morning and actually want to get out of bed. That's got to be the point to this, right? Like Joe Rogan was saying, life is definitely a journey. And it's what we make out of this journey that is so important. Thank you, Tori. Yes, I do. I love the recovery groups. Absolutely. And I don't know if we'll ever have an answer to anything, but the one thing that I have noticed since June 1st is yes, you want to live in the moment, but you also want to have a purpose. And whatever that purpose may be, whether you're a writer or an athlete or a cook, it's to have something in your life that every day you can put a little effort into so that someday down the road, you can achieve some kind of goal. And what's really cool about this is, for me anyways, is I do have this goal of doing this performance in October. But the bigger picture of that is that the journey's not over after that performance. That is a goal of mine, but the purpose of the whole thing of what I'm doing is so that I do have a message that I can share with other people in recovery, and hopefully inspire those people to go on and change their lives, and in turn, through them changing their lives, that they would inspire other people to change their lives, you know. And it sounds kind of grandeur, but I think that's the whole point of this thing, is to get outside of selfishness and to be of service to others. And you know, we always want to make like service this grand thing, but service is simply putting a smile on someone's face. Good morning, how you doing today? You know, and we always hear that, right? Hey, how you doing today? And we always hear the, you know, it's Monday, it's this or that. And through the job that I'm doing right now, I actually have a lot of interaction with strangers, basically. And even though it's a 2-3 minute interaction or something like that, I've come across some of these people who are absolutely miserable at the job that they have. And so you go, good morning, how you doing? And they're like, no, it's a Monday. Well, in that point, I get to go, well, is it just Monday, or, you know, what's going on? And it's a brief conversation. You know, I'm not digging up their whole life history, but one particular interaction I had, the guy was really kind of down, and I said, well, what's going on? He goes, man, it's job, blah, blah, blah. And started asking him about any hobbies that he had, and he just lit up. He loves to do this rock climbing. And I'm like, well, how often do you do that? And he's like, well, not as much as I want to. And I'm like, well, what could change that situation? Now, again, it was just a brief conversation, but when he left, he actually had a smile on his face, because he was thinking about what he really loved to do. And hopefully in that interaction, maybe he was thinking about finding more time to do it, you know, maybe less time watching TV or something like that, and spending that time pursuing your goals. With me, my dad always goes 110% dad, and it seems to me, because of my addictive personality, if I get into something, I go 110% until I hit a brick wall, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm done with that, right? So going back to having a goal and a purpose, again, the first time in my 52 years of life, I've actually set a long-term goal that has gotten me excited to get out of bed and to share this message of recovery, that there is hope out there, and life is worth living, even though there's going to be these down days. And like I said, you know, with the weather and stuff like that, the last couple of days I've been feeling really down and depressed. But get outside yourself and start talking to other people, and have a goal that you're shooting for has definitely helped. This is probably the first winter that I've gone through where I haven't gone, as my parents say, completely dark, because usually what happens is winter comes around, I stop riding my bicycles, I start becoming really reclusive, and then that's when things go bad for me. And this winter, I've actually managed to pull through it. And again, it's because I set a goal for myself that gets me excited to get out of bed. Michelle writes, very right, Dan. Even the smallest interactions with someone could be the spark someone really needs. And that's exactly it. You know, like I said earlier, you know, I woke up at 1 o'clock this morning. I'm full of anxiety about doing this live stream. What am I going to talk about? Everything's got to be perfect, blah, 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 this, and that. And in the end, I looked in the mirror and laughed at myself. And I'm like, come on, 110%, Dan. Just say yes, get on here, talk, and, you know, hopefully someone gets something out of it. And going forward, every Sunday at this time, we'll just keep this going and see what happens. But it's that willingness to say yes, you know, facing fears. Who would think doing a live stream is a fear? Oh, you're gonna, yeah, it scared the crap out of me, right? You know, really, because again, everything's got to be perfect, right? I should have, I don't know, a tropical green screen thing behind me and notes and this and that. But me being me, I'm just like, yeah, we'll just wing it. We'll go through it and try to make things work. So yeah. Michelle also wrote, hearing about how others were finding success in recovery is very helpful and encouraging. And I think that's really the key to everything. It's just the more we can surround ourselves with other people who are striving to take it to the next level, I guess, for lack of a better term, is very important. You know, it's so funny when we think about our friends and our circle, and I've heard this quite often through my life and never paid much attention to it other than, you know, if you look at the 5 closest people in your life, you're going to make around 2,000 to 3,000, give or take, what they're making, and whatever that group of people are doing is going to be what you're going to be doing. And separating myself from certain people in my life has been very important to me because I don't want to live that life anymore. And finding people who are trying to take it to the next level has been very encouraging to me. Not only with my sponsor who does a podcast here in Utah called The Other Side of Hell. He's inspiring me to go up. Meeting LT and what LT is doing has inspired me. We did a little video, you know, NAAA stereotypes. I had a blast doing that. And again, it's people bringing other people up. And I think that's really the goal. It's not only are you climbing your ladder to whatever success looks like to yourself, but it's to be able to reach down and help that next person up. And as I go on this journey, I'm finding that to be more and more important in my life. Thank you, Arturo. Hopefully I'm pronouncing the name right. And so with all of this, guys, I've kind of exhausted everything that I have. Yeah, that stereotype video was hilarious. And what's really funny about that video is, unless you've been in the rooms and had any kind of time in meetings, you show that to someone who has no clue about AA or NA, and they're like, I don't get this. And that's it's a joke that I heard a long time ago, but AA meeting or NA or any kind of meeting is the only place you can walk into a room full of strangers and reminisce about old times. And unless you've been down that road, you won't get that video. But that video was just hilarious, and I look forward to doing more stuff with LT on that front. That'll be interesting. So with that, unless someone has a question or something like that, I think we're gonna call it an end, man. And I'm truly humbled and appreciative of all the people that jumped on here, because like I said, I thought I'd just be talking to myself for the longest time. So, and to be honest, at 1 o'clock when I'm waking up, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna last 5 minutes, and we'll quickly hit cut. But thank you, everyone. I truly appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful and a very powerful day. Thank you for allowing me to be of service to you guys today. For hopefully something I said inspired you guys to go on and pursue life to the fullest. And with that, I think we'll call it an end. Thanks.